Before this story starts, I want you to do one thing. Imagine you're completely alone on an island. No signal. No people. No way to call for help. Now imagine someone out there knows your name, and they weren't supposed to. If that thought makes you even a little uneasy, this story is going to mess with your head. This happened about a year ago. I was 22, running on fumes, mentally checked out, and honestly just done with everything. Work had been brutal. Life felt weirdly distant, like I was watching it instead of actually living it. And yeah, I wasn't exactly starting from a clean slate. Let's just say I had some history. The kind you don't talk about. The kind that makes you want to disappear for a while and reset. So that's exactly what I decided to do. No notifications. No people. No distractions. Just me, somewhere quiet. I was venting about it at work one day when a coworker brought up this tiny island off the coast of Maine. He described it like it was the most boring place on earth. No nightlife. No crowds. Barely anyone stays overnight. Most people take the ferry out in the morning and leave before sunset. But then he said something that stuck with me. If you stay the night, he told me, it's like you've got the whole island to yourself. That sounded perfect. I looked it up that same night. Found a listing for a small cottage right by the water. It was cheap. Like, suspiciously cheap. And it was available immediately. Looking back, that should have been a red flag. But at the time, I didn't care. I booked it without thinking twice. The ferry ride out there felt normal. Calm water. A few tourists. Nothing weird. But once we got closer to the island, I don't know, something just felt off. Not scary. Just empty. The cottage itself was even more isolated than I expected. It was small. One room. A bed, a tiny kitchenette that looked like it hadn't been used in years, and a bathroom that felt more like a storage closet. Behind the cottage? Thick brush. Dense enough that it felt like it was pressing against the walls. In front? The ocean. And one single window covered by a thin curtain that barely blocked anything. The walls were paper thin. I could hear everything. The wind moving through the brush sounded like someone walking right outside. And the door? It had a deadbolt and a chain lock. Both looked newer than everything else in the place. At the time, I just brushed it off. Now, I wish I hadn't. I spent the late afternoon just walking around the island. It was actually kind of peaceful at first. Watching people slowly leave on the last ferry. One by one, the island emptied out. Until it was just quiet. No cars. No voices. No background noise. Just the ocean. I grabbed dinner at a small bar near the ferry dock. Nothing fancy. The bartender was chill, made small talk. But when I mentioned where I was staying, her whole expression changed. She didn't say anything weird. Just paused. And gave me this look. Like she wanted to say something, but decided not to. On my way back, I noticed something else. There was a small dock tucked into a rocky area not far from the cottage. And tied to it was a single blue motorboat. It stood out immediately. Because every other boat I'd seen that day? Big fishing boats. Lobster vessels. This one? Small. Quiet. Out of place. I got back to the cottage around 10:30. Locked everything. Deadbolt. Chain. Checked it twice. At that point, I was actually starting to relax. It felt like I'd finally disconnected from everything. Then my phone started acting up. Wouldn't charge. I tried every outlet in the place. Nothing worked. Battery was dropping fast. And I knew within an hour it'd be dead. I didn't like that. Not having a phone out there felt wrong. But I figured it wasn't a big deal. I had my ferry ticket. I'd leave in the morning. So I just went to bed. I knocked out pretty fast. Exhaustion hit me all at once. And for a while, everything was quiet again. Until I woke up. I don't know what time it was. Middle of the night. Pitch black. But something had pulled me out of my sleep. And then I heard it. Footsteps. Outside the cottage. Right on the gravel. Slow. Heavy. And way too deliberate to be an animal. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't even breathe properly. The footsteps stopped. Just like that. The silence that followed. Way worse than the sound. It stretched on for what felt like forever. Long enough that I started trying to convince myself I imagined it. Then it came back. This time closer. And there was no mistaking it now. Whoever it was. They weren't passing by. They were walking straight toward the door. My heart started pounding so loud I was convinced they could hear it. I stayed completely still. Didn't dare move. The footsteps stopped right outside. Then suddenly, a flashlight beam hit the front of the cottage, shining through the thin curtain, moving slowly, like they were scanning the inside. I shut my eyes instantly. Didn't want to risk them seeing movement. Then the light clicked off, and the door handle moved. I felt it. That small metallic shift. They tried to open it. The lock held. A few seconds passed. Then they tried again. Harder this time. And then, bang. A loud hit against the door. Then another. And another. Each one louder than the last. The entire cottage shook with it. That's when something in my brain snapped. This wasn't random. This wasn't someone drunk or lost. This person knew I was inside. I slid out of bed quietly and crouched down near the door. I don't even know what my plan was. I just knew I couldn't stay frozen. And then, everything stopped. Dead silence. For a few seconds, I thought it was over. Then I heard a voice. Right outside the door. I know you're in there. Ryan. My blood went cold. That wasn't my name. But it was close enough to hit the same way. And the way he said it. Like he was sure. I didn't say a word. Didn't move. The footsteps started again. But this time, they moved along the side of the cottage. Slow. Dragging. Like he was circling me. He knew I was inside. And he wanted me to know he wasn't leaving. For what felt like forever, he kept moving around the cottage. Sometimes stopping. Sometimes just standing there. Then finally, I heard something different. An engine. From the direction of that dock. A small motor starting up. I stayed frozen. Listening. The sound got farther. And farther. Until it disappeared into the ocean. I didn't sleep after that. Not even for a second. As soon as the sun came up, I got out. The ground told the whole story. Boot prints. Deep. Clear. Circling the cottage multiple times. And then a straight line. Leading to the water. He didn't come from the island. He came by boat. Just for me. I left that same morning. Didn't look back. Didn't ask questions. But here's the part that still messes with me. I never told anyone exactly where I was staying. Not the address. Not the cottage. And yet, someone knew exactly where to find me. On a random island. On a random night. And if they found me once, what's stopping them from doing it again? And the next story? It's not about someone finding you. It's about a place where you're not supposed to find them. The last story was about someone finding you, even when you disappear. This one? It's about finding something that was never supposed to be there. This didn't happen recently. We're talking years ago. Back when I was deep into grad school, working toward my degree in structural engineering. My focus? Concrete decay in marine environments. Yeah, I know. Not exactly thrilling. But that research ended up taking me somewhere I never expected. Japan. I was invited to a conference in Nagasaki. It was mostly academic stuff. Presentations, lectures, networking, the usual. But there was one person I had been in contact with for months before the trip. A professor named Yamamoto. Super respected in his field. And more importantly, he had connections. After a few conversations, he offered me something insane. Access to Ashima Island. If you've never heard of it, you've probably seen it. It's this abandoned island off the coast of Nagasaki. Looks like a giant concrete battleship. Stacked apartment blocks. Crumbling buildings. At one point, it was one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Then the coal ran out. And everyone just left. Now it's basically a ghost island. Tourists can visit, but only on guided paths. You're not allowed inside the buildings. Too dangerous. Too unstable. But me? I got special access. Research clearance. I had to sign a stack of waivers basically saying, if you get hurt, that's on you. Which, honestly, just made it more exciting. The morning I went out there, I took a small boat arranged through the research office. No tourists. Just me, and a guy named Takashi. He was my escort. Quiet guy. Didn't really talk much. Just gave short answers. Didn't seem interested in being there. As we approached the island, I felt it. That weird shift. From far away, it looked small. But the closer we got, the scale hit different. Massive concrete walls. Buildings stacked tight. Windows like empty eye sockets. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused. Takashi gave me a quick rundown when we docked. Stay on marked paths. Don't enter restricted areas. Don't touch anything unnecessary. Stay within sight of him. That last one? He repeated twice. I should have paid more attention to that. The first couple hours? Honestly incredible. I was in my element. Taking photos. Notes. Observing structural damage. Everything felt controlled. Safe. Takashi stayed behind me most of the time. Checking his watch. Like he just wanted to get this over with. We entered one of the residential buildings around midday. Old apartment block. Stairs barely holding together. You could literally see through parts of the floor. Takashi stopped at the bottom. Said he'd wait there. Which didn't make sense. He had just told me to stay in sight. But now? He wasn't coming up. I didn't question it. I just went. On the fourth floor, I noticed something weird. Dust. There was dust everywhere. Decades of it. But not in one area. There was a path. A clear trail. Like something had been walking there. Not recently. But often enough that the dust hadn't fully settled. That didn't make sense. No one was supposed to be there. I followed it with my eyes. It led to a room at the end of the hallway. I should have gone back. Told Takashi. But curiosity got the better of me. So I walked toward it. Slowly. Carefully. And pushed the door open. The moment I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. First thing I noticed? The smell. I can't even describe it properly. It wasn't rotten. It wasn't chemical. It just didn't feel natural. Like something that didn't belong in that environment. Then I touched the wall. It was warm. Not hot. But warmer than everything else. And that made zero sense. There was no sunlight hitting it. No exposed gaps. Nothing. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds. Trying to rationalize it. Animals? Maybe. Heat trapped in the concrete? Possible. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I went back downstairs. Told Takashi everything. His reaction? Instant. But not in the way I expected. He didn't ask questions. Didn't look surprised. Didn't even try to verify it. He just said, "That's not possible." Flat. Emotionless. I told him to come see it. He refused. That's when things started feeling off. We kept moving. Different buildings. Different floors. And I kept noticing things. Small things. Marks. Disturbances. Patterns that didn't fit. Not obvious enough to prove anything. But enough to make you uneasy. Like something had been there. Recently. At one point, I brought it up again. Tried to push him. This time, he didn't even respond. He pulled out a radio. Started speaking rapid Japanese into it. First time he used it all day. When I asked what he said, he just replied, "Checking schedule." Yeah. Right. We entered another building. Taller this time. More intact. And this time, Takashi followed me. Right behind me. That alone felt weird. We went up several floors. And when I stepped into one of the rooms, everything changed. Against the wall was a pile of blankets and empty water bottles. Fresh enough to know this wasn't old. Someone had been living there. Not decades ago. Recently. My heart started racing. But at the same time, I felt relieved. Because finally, proof. I turned around to show Takashi. And he was gone. Warning the shift. That's when it hit me. The fear. Not when I saw the evidence. But when I realized I was alone. Completely alone. On an island where someone wasn't supposed to be. And suddenly, everything felt wrong. The silence. The buildings. The air. I rushed out into the hallway, trying to find the stairs. But when I turned the corner, they were blocked. Collapsed debris. Enough to stop me from getting through. I didn't stop to think. Didn't question how it happened. I just ran. Men running the chase. Down the hallway. past broken rooms, through shadows. And then, I heard it. Footsteps. Behind me. At first, I thought it was Takashi. But then I realized there were multiple, more than one person, following me. I didn't turn around. Not once. I just ran. Faster. Blind. Panicked. The building felt like a maze. Endless corridors. No clear way out. But somehow, I found another stairwell. And I didn't walk down it. I jumped. Skipped steps. Nearly fell. But I didn't stop. Water wave escape. I don't remember getting out. Just flashes. Light. Open ground. The dock. And Takashi. Standing there. Like nothing happened. Like he'd been there the whole time. I lost it. Started yelling. Telling him everything. The people. The room. The chase. But he didn't react. Not even a little. Just stood there. Blank. And then said, "We're leaving." Like that was it. I made it off that island. But I never got answers. And the worst part? The next story isn't about being followed. Or chased. The first story. Someone found you. The second. You found something you weren't supposed to. This one? Something finds you. And pretends to be someone you trust. This happened over 10 years ago. Back when I was in my final semester of college. I was majoring in history, working on my senior thesis. My topic? Abandoned institutional spaces. Places like old hospitals, rehab centers, quarantine zones. Anywhere people used to live, and then suddenly didn't. One of the locations I was researching stood out. North Brother Island. If you don't know it, it's this overgrown island sitting right in the East River. Technically part of New York City. But completely abandoned. It used to be a quarantine hospital. Later turned into a rehab facility. Then eventually shut down and sealed off. No public access. No visitors. No reason to go there. At least, legally. I never planned on actually going. I just needed it for research. But one night, I mentioned it to two of my friends. Jansen and Jesse. We were just hanging out, talking, probably a little buzzed. I was complaining about how long my thesis was taking. But the second they realized this creepy, abandoned island was literally right there in NYC, they got excited. Back then, we were all into that edgy urban exploring vibe. Sneaking into places you're not supposed to be. Filming. Exploring. That kind of thing. So naturally. They wanted to go. And honestly, after all the research I'd done, I kinda did too. A few weeks later, we were standing in a park in the Bronx at 2 a.m. 3 kayaks. Flashlights. Backpacks full of gear. The plan was simple. Paddle out. Explore for a few hours. Be back before sunrise. Easy. At least, that's what we told ourselves. Getting into the water was smooth. No people around. No security. But the second we started paddling, something shifted. That excitement turned into nerves. Because now, there was nothing stopping us. Just water. And that island ahead. We made it across. Pulled the kayaks onto shore. And for a second, we just stood there, taking it in. It was dead quiet. Which made no sense. We were still in New York City. The Bronx was right there. But it felt like we were miles away from everything. We started moving inland. And that's when it hit us. This place was bigger than we thought. Buildings everywhere. Some collapsed. Some barely standing. Some completely swallowed by nature. Trees growing through walls. Roofs caving in. It looked like the world had ended. And this place got left behind. We split up a little, but stayed within shouting distance. Checking out different buildings. Shining flashlights into dark rooms. Most of them were empty. But not untouched. There was graffiti. Old signs. Evidence that people had been there before us. At one point, Jensen found a spray paint can. Wanted to tag something. I told him not to. Felt wrong. People lived here. People died here. But they didn't care. Said it didn't matter. I didn't argue. Just walked off. That was my mistake. Being alone changes everything. Even if nothing's wrong, your brain starts filling in the blanks. I was walking through a long hallway in one of the larger buildings. Old hospital section, I think. That's when I heard it. My name. Called out from ahead. It was Jesse's voice. Clear as day. Yo, over here. I stopped. It freaked me out for a second. But I figured they were messing with me. Still, something felt off. For Jesse to be ahead of me like that. He would have had to leave Jensen immediately after I did. Run through a completely different path. And somehow get in front of me. Didn't make sense. I called back. Asked where he was. Instant reply. Right here. From a room just a few doors down. I walked toward it. The doorway was darker than everything else. Like the light just stopped at the entrance. I stepped inside. Raised my flashlight. And that's when I saw it. A figure. Standing in the corner. Facing the wall. At first, my brain tried to make it normal. Tried to say it was one of my friends. But it wasn't. It was too tall. Way too tall. At least 6'6", maybe more. And completely still. Not moving. Not reacting. Just standing there. I screamed. Didn't think. Didn't hesitate. I ran. Full sprint through the hallway. Yelling their names. Didn't care how loud I was. Didn't care who heard me. All I knew was, I needed to get out. Every dark doorway I passed felt like something was about to jump out. Like I wasn't alone in that building anymore. I found Jensen and Jesse near where we split. The second they saw me running, they started running too. No questions. We didn't stop until we got back to the kayaks. I told them everything. At first, they didn't believe me. But the way I was acting, they knew something was wrong. We decided to leave. Immediately. Started dragging the kayaks back toward the water. And then, we all heard it. At the same time. A sound. Behind us, soft, but clear, a woman, moaning, like she was in pain, or crying, not loud, but close enough, and it didn't sound human, not fully. We didn't say anything. We didn't need to. We just moved faster, got into the water, and paddled. The whole ride back. None of us stopped talking, trying to explain it, trying to make sense of it. But one thing stuck with me. That voice. Because I know what I heard. That was Jesse's voice. Exactly. Same tone. Same pitch. But Jesse was never there. He was with Jansen the whole time. I don't believe in the paranormal. Never have. But I can't explain that night. Something was on that island. Something that knew my name. Something that could sound exactly like someone I trusted. And whatever it was, it wanted me to come closer. 3 islands. 3 stories. One thing in common? You think you're alone. Until you're not. And by the time you realize it, it's already too late. Fearful Face Desert Island Fire.